I'd like to call the consent calendar portion of the Montecito Board of Architecture review for, what's today? January 23, 2025 to order. I have a conflict with item number C2, so we're going to make that the last item of this. So it could be C1, C3, and then C2. Bill will take care of that. So item C1, Dale, I saw you there. Are you there, please? Dale?
Yep, just
Okay.
turning my volume on, sorry.
So we're on for preliminary final. Did you have any comments about this, Rob?
Hey Dale,
How you doing?
I had, can we look at the plan real quick, please?
So I just wanted to point out that we do have a planner memo for this one.
Okay, yes, and which I've read. Did you read the planner memo? It's kind of long.
No, I didn't see the planner memo. I'm sorry.
Okay, let me read it then.
Find that for me.
The proposed project received approval from the director on January 14th, and the director's memo that analyzed the proposed project was included as an attachment. The MBAR comments from the last hearing are as follows: work to make the entry roof as flat as possible, encourage providing a guest parking space in the gravel area closer to the home. This design is a good improvement architecturally from the prior design. The garage roof is somewhat out of scale and can be lowered. Encourage you to place an extra guest parking space adjacent to the, I think it's house, return for preliminary final and consent. So,
And view, please.
so do you have the sheet of, and you want the site plan?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I just had kind of a question to understand. So I mean, the notion of rotating the garage and not seeing the garage doors is nice. I'm just, that it has, is there a distance that the throat of that driveway had to be from the property line? Because what I'm seeing is, and again, it's kind of a mixed bag, is that the throat of the driveway seems really wide, and that by having it do that 90, which is interesting, that you end up with a lot more paving than just coming in straight, I guess is. So I was just kind of wondering the thinking on that.
If I
Maybe
may
6 of
weigh
one, a half
in,
dozen the other, so.
if I may weigh in, that was predicated upon the fire marshal's request to have a hammerhead turnaround, because right adjacent to our property is at the end of the street, and there is no adequate cul-de-sac or any turnaround without going into their property. Beside having the hammerhead turnaround there, we also were mandated by the fire department to add a new fire sprinkler for everybody on that street, and not a fire sprinkler, but a fire hydrant on that street. So that was one of the long delays we had, is getting approvals from the fire as well as the flood control people.
So quick question, Dale, is, so did you look at, and I'm not necessarily saying this is the way to go, but did you look at, if you had the garage doors facing the private road and you push the garage back a little bit, did you look at that and rule that out?
Not really. What we're trying to do is keep the garage door face off of, the very front facing the
Yes.
street.
Okay, I know, I get it. It's kind of a tough dilemma. Anyways, I'm fine. So.
I'm good with this too, except the one comment that the roofing material, the metal roofing needs to have the note matte finish,
Mhm.
so it's not shiny. And besides that, I'm ready to approve it. Are you?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
we are on for preliminary, so county council has asked that I ask, is there anybody attending this meeting either in person or on Zoom that would like to address the board on item number C1, 1779, San Leandro, please?
No requests.
Okay, so Dale, I will ask that again at the full meeting, but we're going to recommend approval, okay?
Thank you.
And with that note, okay? Okay, for those that just came in, I have a conflict with item C2, so we're going to jump over to item C3, and then I will leave the room and Bill will take over C2. So item C3, 2286 Sycamore Canyon Road. There is both a planner memo and a response memo. But I think more to the point, did you read those two?
No, those I didn't. I was focusing on other things with the project, so. What is the,
Okay, so, the board had requested revisions involving the proposed landscaping and hardscaping. The applicant has provided a comment response sheet to address each of these comments, which is included in the box folder. Can we just, because time's a little tight, can we just go to the plan and next page? Next page, next page, next page. I'm looking right there. So they've added a significant amount of landscaping off on the west side, which we asked for. They reduced some of the decking, paving around the pool and added some planters right in there. And I think that's primarily what they did in response to what we had asked.
yeah, I mean, fundamentally that, there's a lot of nice pieces in this project. There's some things, this whole thing to me is never kind of been weaved together well. And I hate to say that, but, and there's some things, technical things with the landscape, but I'm kind of worn down and I think that, that I think there's enough nice pieces in there that it'll be fine in the end. So,
So you're ready to approve it?
reluctantly, yes.
Okay, again, on for preliminary, is there anybody in the public, and I am also, by the way, is there anybody in the, attending the meeting or attending by Zoom that would like to address the board on item C3 2286 Sycamore Canyon Road, please?
No requests.
Okay, so we are going to recommend for approval to the board. Item C2 will now be done by Bill and Rob. I'll be outside.
Okay, item C2, 735 Chellam Way. Do we have, Chris, are you online here or in the field here? No? Chris, anybody? Anybody for 735 Chellam Way? Item 2,
Me too.
C2, consent. Well, did you have a chance to review it, Rob? Have you looked at it?
I did.
Okay.
Can we see the site plan on that too, please? I just had
So my understanding is that deck there in light blue and remodel the purple color portion there.
yeah, so I had,
Existing deck, new deck, yeah.
question to the applicant, you've got this kind of, organic shaped walls and the deck has a little bit of that in there. Was there any thought of incorporating some planting, some kind of more informal planting pockets within that on the right-hand side of it? I think that's, is that east?
Yeah, I was
East part
wondering,
of it.
was there any landscape plan at all? I didn't see.
No, there's some awkwardness in the geometry there and then the main thing that I have a question on is on the proposed west elevation.
Take a look at that, David, if we can.
And maybe you don't see this, but yeah, that's it right there in the upper left.
A lot of understory there.
I mean, is there landscaping or lattice or something to hide the underbelly of that deck? I mean, or is it not seen anywhere or,
That was my question as well.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I didn't see any landscaping. I didn't know if there was existing there or not. So there's nobody online though. Yeah.
It looks like Chris just joined, so you
Oh, good.
he
Okay.
may
We have
need
to
you to
repeat
Chris,
Chris, are you there?
Sue,
Chris Contrell?
okay.
Chris, are you there? Hello, we're not hearing you if you are.
I'm here. I'm sorry
Okay,
about that.
all right. Okay, Chris, we have some questions. Go ahead, Rob, if you can.
Well, the first question, Chris, was well, let me get to this because we're looking at it. So, on this upper left proposed west elevation,
Yep.
we're kind of seeing the underbelly of the deck. I mean, is there landscaping? Is there some maybe thought of putting some lattice or some kind of wood screening on that to make that read a little bit better, or you just
Yeah,
can't
it's a
see that from anywhere or so?
Yeah, you can't see it from anywhere. And I'm sorry, I'm late to this. What we did on this thing was remove the covered deck part of it, which was it was covering about half of that deck, and that juncture with the house was what we were talking about last time. We could certainly look at screening under there. There is planting up to it right now, so I think it would be mostly screened by planting already.
Do you want to see the site photos? Can we see the site photos of that existing?
Yeah, and I think along that, I think maybe to ensure that I would just, and I think it's pretty simple, just like
There you go.
as part of an approval, require that they have lattice screening, some degree of that on there, but,
Okay, that
um,
seems fair.
okay, so that's the existing wall.
That's the existing
That-
wall. And you can
okay.
see the deck above there. There's like a maple tree on the lower left. That's what's getting pulled across. So the view where you're seeing kind of the underbelly, it really dies into dirt pretty quick.
Okay. Is that wall stable? It looks like it's leaning.
It's like a landscape canted wall. It actually is leaning the other way. It looks like
Okay,
towards
it's with the photo on the left, it looks like it's
Yeah.
leaning at me, and the photo on the right, it's leaning towards the hill. So,
Yeah.
so my other comment on that you missed was that I thought the geometry on the deck and plan view was a little awkward, but I thought that there was opportunity to have some kind of organic planting pockets in, up along that wall that would kind of make the deck feel like it integrates with the site a little bit better.
Sure.
But,
Sure.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think it would be more successful myself, so.
Yeah, Chris, my questions were the same as Rob's. I was just more curious if there's landscaping there. So, I mean, I'm okay with the design of the deck itself and the railing, and you really just had the one detail that showed kind of the rail.
Yeah, and they're
Connects.
just switching from that horizontal wood rail to a vertical picket just for kid safety. So it's easy,
Got
less
it.
less easy to
It's
crawl.
all in steel.
Yeah.
So, I guess we could grant this final approval with the conditions that Rob, had made about providing some kind of landscape screening under the understory of that deck.
Sure.
So, does that sound, Rob, sorry,
Sorry, what's that?
does that sound good to you? That
Sorry, I
we'll
was-
condition it that.
Yes, yeah, that'd be
get
great.
Approval with the condition.
Yeah, that would be great.
Back.
Yeah, thank you.
Talking about fire,
Mike,
we've been talking about fire and landscaping under a wood deck is not a good idea. So I'm curious,
So,
some way to mitigate the potential fire hazard by specifying.
I don't think we're asking for it under the deck. I think we're just asking that it screen the underside of it. I don't think we're talking about putting it under the deck, you know?
no, I saved you that seat.
So, so we're gonna grant final approval once we get to the hearing.
What I had asked was that they just do some wood panels, wood screening, and then it's integrated, and then we're not worried about the landscaping issue. We don't have to depend on landscaping being successful or living, just have them put some lattice panels on that
Lattice.
base, and then it's done.
All right, is that acceptable to you, Chris? You're good
Sounds
with
great.
that?
Yep.
All right, well, we'll come back at review here and give that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. All right, John will just come back for the, yeah, that was just final.
Hey.
One minute. Everybody ready? Okay, I'd like to call the January 23rd, 2025 Montecito Board of Architectural Review to order. First item on the agenda is public comments. Is there anybody that would like to address the board on an item that's not before us today, please?
No requests.
Item number 2, agenda status report. Is there anything that's
Nothing to report here.
minutes of January 9th? Will anybody got comments on that, please? Anybody, please? I'd like to move for approval of the minutes as submitted. Is there a second, please?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Members, informational briefing. Anybody do anything, go anywhere, leaving early, anything? Staff update. This is going to be a short meeting. Staff update, anything, please?
I can't think of anything.
Billy?
Nothing for me either, thank you.
Okay, item number C1. Okay, so Montecito consent calendar. Item C1, 1779 San Leandro Lane was a remodel, which took a while because of the fire department and had to get a director's approval, which they did. And I believe Rob and I are ready, willing, and able to request a both preliminary and final with the condition that the metal roof have a matte finish on it. So before that motion is made, is there anybody that would like to address the board on item C1, 1779 San Leandro, please? It is on for preliminary today.
No requests.
Okay, so for preliminary final, I'll move for approval as submitted with the applicant to provide a matte finish on the metal roofing that they're proposing. Is there a second, please?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Item C2, I had a conflict, so Bill's the chairman. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so item C2, 735 Chelm Way, we recommend for final approval with the condition that the applicant return to planning, I guess, with a lattice, showing a lattice screen underneath the understory of the new deck addition. Is there anything different to that, Rob? Is that good?
No, what was the other thing? Wait, I did ask about having planting pockets on the plan view of that deck, and the applicant was receptive to that too,
Okay,
up against the retaining wall, just because the deck had kind of an organic shape. And I thought that adding some kind of organic planting, like half circles basically, and a little landscaping incorporated as part of that would be more successful.
okay, great. Thank you. Do I have a vote on that for final
Well, I think
approval?
a motion's necessary.
Okay, well, the motion is for final approval with the lattice screen to be added underneath and planting pockets to be added within the deck. Yeah,
Is
the
that
new
your
deck.
motion?
That is my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Item C3, 2286 Sycamore Canyon Road. This is that pool that had the laundry room near Cold Spring School, and they had insufficient drawings along the way, and they have provided much more complete drawings. And as a result, I think both Rob and I are ready to recommend both preliminary and final. But before that, it is on for preliminary. So anybody that would like to address the board on item C3 2286 Sycamore Canyon Road, please.
No requests.
Okay, so I'll move for both preliminary and final approval as submitted. Is there a second, please?
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so item 1. Is there anybody here for that, please? that we're on for conceptual review today. Heidi, can we start with that drawing that you submitted yesterday, sort of and then can you talk about that and then get going with the rest of your presentation, please?
You bet.
Yeah, thank you.
So good afternoon, Chair and board members. Heidi Jones, I'm the agent for the owners. The owners purchased this property in 2023 with the existing condition that it's in right now. As far as we can tell, it's been in this configuration for at least 20 years with at least 3 prior owners. So the history of how this transpired is unknown. It suffered damage during the 2018 debris flow and pretty much sat there until the current owners purchased the property, and they have permits underway doing some damage repairs. So that's a little bit of the context.
So what's been permitted?
The blue shapes,
Or
what
is
we can
all
find
that's
on
been
record.
permitted?
That's the only thing we can find in the record.
Okay,
It's
very
pretty
good.
slim.
So
So
there seems to be a lot of building there.
there has been a lot of building. Again, it's a bit of a mystery in how this all transpired through the inspection process and the debris flow permit work that's being done. A neighbor complained and a violation transpired because obviously it doesn't match what's in their county record. So we've worked really closely with county staff and our project team to come up with the proposal to remedy the situation, remove the encroachments, keep the FAR down and low, and get the project to a point where it doesn't require any modifications.
Yeah, go ahead. And now if you want to go to other,
Okay, John Beecham, our architect, can walk through the proposal.
As you can see from that A2 sheet, there was quite a bit that's been built just, we long time ago. So we're looking now to, it might be easiest just go straight to elevations. And that would be the A 2.4 or the photos. So this kind of gives you a sense of, of what's there. What's there is very unique. It's fun. We can see why the owners, wanted to purchase this property, even in the state it was in. And so there's none of this can be seen from the street. It's tucked behind heavy landscaping right on Danielson Road and a front carport that you can see in that site plan. So these are all, it's a very interior oriented project, and it's tight to the side and rear yard setbacks. So nothing's really seen from the street. So it's a really nice private oasis inside there. Just unfortunately, so much was built without a permit. So we're trying to correct that now. And if you can go back to if you go to the next sheet. So what you're looking at is more of a working drawing of the lower right was part of the residence. We're proposing to separate that from the garage. We have to have a breezeway put in to I guess, separate that ADU, proposed ADU from the garage. That's why you see it as that open connection between the two. Top left, we're proposing to remove the carport. And because there's a portion of the existing master suite adjacent to that carport, we have to pull that back out of the front yard setback. The pool was permitted or shows on permit record. So that is there existing. So as you can see from those photos. And then there's to connect that master suite to the main body of the house, we're proposing just an outside kind of breezeway, hallway, so that interior bedroom can remain a separate bedroom and not have to be a walk-through space, the one between the master suite and the living room. And we have elevations of what's proposed, and they're complicated to read because there's so much going on with this house, but it all comes together so well. It's a fun project. So you can see in the background, like upper right, that's that new studio in the back. The dashed lines are the chimneys that are there that are proposed to be relocated to get those out, but that's part of the ADU. I don't know if we're supposed to talk about that. But on the front, again, top left, we're proposing to maintain that existing sliding gate because it does create our privacy and our fence for the pool. So we still need to have those site walls need to remain. Then the next drawing down is that interior elevation. You can go to the next sheet. Oh, I'm sorry, if you can go, there you go. So lower left, that's on the far left, those are the garage doors. Those are not seen from any street. There's a kind of a private alley off of Olive Mill that goes back to this property. And again, the existing elevations. And we kind of jumped right into the floor plans, but if you look at the A1, there is an aerial photo that explains quite a bit. Yes, if you can zoom into that photo. So again, on the far left, you see a van right there. That's about where that carport is, right there. So that's the driveway into that carport that we have to unfortunately remove. And then the swimming pool, and you can see how the roof orientations there's a lot going on, but again, it comes together quite well, and it makes it a fun interior courtyard type project. Happy to answer any
Are you
questions.
done
Yeah,
then?
we also provided a street view aerial photograph if it's helpful. If David, you want to pull that up. Yeah, it's surprisingly very charming.
There it is. So we've all driven by this many times, I'm sure.
You done then? Okay, let's get started with Bill today, please.
So you're going to abandon the driveway in the front, or you're not going down the side to get to the back garage? You're accessing that from the back, right? The garage.
That's right. That garage is existing, in that existing alleyway. It connects several properties.
And so the front will get abandoned, the carport goes away, and then that becomes front yard, landscape site?
Just kind of an open area, and I believe we had our trash enclosure
Yes,
located in that because it was allowed in the front yard setback.
that's right. So that sliding gate is kind of hiding those utilitarian uses.
Oh, so you'll still have the gate and you'll still pull a car up in there then?
It's not for a car. We're not allowed to park in it,
Uh,
as far as I understand.
But you need a sliding gate for that, or, I mean?
It's for the pool protection.
And do we need that big a sliding gate? No, but we'd like the owners are already just being pummeled.
Mhm.
And so we thought, well, if we can maintain that, if the board would approve that, it'd be nice. We certainly don't mind changing the color.
Blue.
But the neighborhood has been looking at this sliding gate since at least the early 70s, and it hasn't been.
And
a
I
problem.
mean, with the extent of the work, are they stripping the inside out so that the inspectors can see hold downs and?
That's right, and much of that
paneling?
happened with the debris flow, the damage from that. So it was opened up already.
All right. And did I hear, Heidi, you said something about mods? Are you doing mods? Or what, are there modifications? Like,
We carefully crafted the proposal to not require any modifications. Some of the earlier iterations and the back and forth with staff in our application did include some modifications. So
Mhm.
we worked through to not require any.
And is there any new landscape proposed with this, or
No new landscaping proposed.
so it's existing, but we don't know what that is, I guess, because technically it's like a new project. So
Right.
We'll probably have to see that, I guess, at
correct.
some point. And plate heights it look like there's a lot of roofs, every variety of Spanish detailing you could ever imagine
You're
there.
right. There's many different plate heights and
And what's
cupolas
the highest plate height, I guess, maybe, and roof line roughly? You're single story
that
mostly?
existing elevation, which would be the sheet before this. The dimensions are on the side there.
Okay. Yeah, that to the existing west, David, if you zoom in next to the garage there, that looks like a pretty high piece. 14, okay.
If you can go to the left side of that drawing. So that's our highest point.
Okay. And so is it a two-story? That's two-story there?
No, there's no two-story components.
So that's just a little clear story roof thing.
Correct. And those are there because I'm part of the reason they work well is because the foliage is so heavy on that south and east side that those do provide a lot of light into the interior spaces.
Mhm. And exterior is two-piece mission tile, smooth plaster, wood frame doors and windows?
The doors and windows are predominantly wood.
Okay, all wood? Okay, all right, that's it, thank you.
Tip, please.
Yeah, so can you tell me what happens at the garage? You're building a new wall?
That's correct. So the current garage goes back to what will become the studio,
EDU.
ADU. And so thankfully that garage was large enough that we can build a new foundation, new wall line on the interior of that garage, and then we have to demo out the backside of it.
Okay,
So the north, south, and west sides remain, and the east side has to get relocated. And we had to do that breezeway because of ADU rules, we're not allowed to connect with a garage. So it's unfortunate, but that's kind of where we are.
right, thank you. That's all I have.
Rob, please.
So, is there been a survey done on this property that's, did I miss that? Because I'm not seeing on your site plan, I'm not seeing, like the flat work and around the pool and paving and all that. It looks like there's a lot of information missing.
Maybe that photo in the upper left can help the most, but yes, it's all paving. It's pavers over.
Okay, is there an intent to maybe delineate more, at least add more information, maybe delineate some of the key landscape piece
do
elements
it.
or,
Happy to
Sure.
do it.
well, okay. That's basically what I'm interested in. I think it's missing some information that would help kind of complete the presentation. Thank you.
Robert, please.
Yeah, do you know when this original house was built approximately?
Late 50s, 60s.
Yeah, I think 50s or 60s. I'll see if I might have that in on my tablet. I'm not sure.
I believe we were early 60s on the original, and then
Yes, that has the information. And then the pool came after.
So, but no need for a historical report or anything?
No.
Okay. No more questions.
'70.
70s.
it's when our pool came in.
Okay, so Robert, you're done, please?
Yes.
Okay, Stacy, please. Question.
My main question is stormwater. What have they asked? Where are you on that?
So, we haven't, so what's happening and why this became part of the debris flow is a lot of debris flow came down from Olive Mill.
Mm-hmm.
It in front of that garage, well, there's a giant culvert that runs under the property,
Oh, great.
exits out. So that has since been, I'm giving you a bigger picture, but that's been corrected with the work on Olive Mill afterwards. As far as our stormwater, we haven't spoken to them about this.
Haven't
yet.
got there
We feel
yet.
like with the open pavers, the
Okay.
bulk of that courtyard is, it's not sealed. But no, we have to address that.
Okay, so it's unbeknownst.
Little unknown
Right.
at this point.
Okay.
Is everything you're proposing meet the zoning ordinance? There's setbacks, there's no encroachment, heights, all that stuff? So basically
I
conforms.
think complies.
And then the garage is the one portion that has been previously permitted?
The garage, a portion of the residence, and the pool have been permitted.
And that north face of the garage, is it screened from the neighbors or it's
It is.
quite a wall?
That's right. There's a large fence between that and the neighbor. And I've tried to see it from the next road over. I forget the name of that. And you really cannot see it.
But
They-
that's.
They have another structure backing up to it.
Mhm.
So it's kind of two structures back to back.
Okay.
I think you can see it in that photo, that aerial photo.
And that's one portion of the structure that's been there the longest, since it's been permitted. Okay.
Can bring some additional photos when we come back.
And is there screening around the perimeter of this property?
Heavy. The site walls around Danielson. And then on that, if you can go back to that street front photo, you'll see the vegetation that's there, the landscaping.
Those are my questions. Thanks.
I know this is not necessarily MBAR directly, except it is. If you're taking out as many sidewalls as you are, both on the east and the west side, that pretty much suggests that you're going to be replacing the roof. And with all of the codes because none of it's been permitted, so brand new structural, brand new heating, brand new fire, brand new energy, all of that. Is this a tear down?
That's a great question. We were really close. We spoke with owners about that pretty extensively. But the structure, and it's so hard to convey from these photos, but it is very, very unique and really, really well detailed inside. And so what we preserve is worth it to them, because it would be a tear down, but we could never rebuild to the level of detail that's inside. It's hard to convey to you, but the little unique things that this builder owner did, little ways where there's a Moroccan star that goes through the depth of the plaster and shines light into the floor. We could never replicate this house without 10 times the budget. So it is worth it to them to, it's unfortunate. We have to scale back some of these pieces that are really quite nice, but we have to do that to avoid the modifications.
Okay, and I don't know what other members of the board will do with this, but would we be able to come on a site visit and really understand this project much more intimately than we can from these drawings?
We could,
Don't normally do it for a single story, but we don't normally have 50% or more of a building already built.
that's right. Yeah, we could surely arrange that. I'd just be advised that they do have an active permit to do the debris flow repairs. So
Okay.
it's, it's under construction, but we could.
Yeah, I don't know what other members of the board would want to do with that. Okay, so public comment. I have 3 letters, which were all essentially identical except with different names. So they all state, and then the homeowner, the address would like to see restored and like how the property looked and felt prior to the mud flow. There are 3 of them that are essentially identical, but from 3 separate owners. And which is great. We love to have community input. I also have something, is it Janet Colby? Yes, please. You have 3 minutes. Please come on up. Interest in the easement and, or wherever you want, it's fine.
I like.
No, in the mic. There you go. We need to get it recorded.
I'm Janet Colby. I live at 80 Olive Mill Road, which is on the same easement. We don't call it whatever it was, sidewalk or whatever, that the house does. We've lived there for 10 years. Everyone in the neighborhood knows that house has been built without permits. It's a big joke. My husband and I wanted to buy it. We went through with a really well-known broker.
Into the mic, please.
My husband's an architect as well, and he said, and our contractor, basically, this is a tear down. Okay, so then the mud flow came through, and then some workers started working on it without permits, and they said, oh, we're not doing anything. This was 2 years ago. It was a stop work permit. Okay, so they're kind of iffy. I'm really glad if we go through with all the permitting. I've talked with some of the staff and it sounds like they are, but what I'm concerned with is how they could encroach on the easement with the garage. They say it is permitted, but I haven't found a permit yet. And if they get through with that easement, there's also a 5-foot public utilities easement encroach
Into the mic, please.
that goes right behind the garage and the ADU. So I'm wondering how they could do that if it's a public utilities easement. No one's addressed that. Also, the drainage, which is right out in front of his garage. We know we've been there for the mud flows. It didn't all come through Olive Mill. The first flood did. The second one came from Virginia, and the third one came up. His drainage pipe went back up because it was stuck. It goes underneath the house. And we've had the city come out, the drainage people, the sewer people, and they said, oh, there's nothing. They didn't address it. There's a definite issue with drainage. Then quickly, ADU, I know there's no parking requirements, but where will that person park?
We do not discuss that.
I know you don't. I
State
just
law.
wanted to bring that up. But it's mostly the easement, the public utilities easement. Otherwise, it's fine. What you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I have Martha Sim. She also has comments about the parking and the easement.
Right. They live at 80 and I'm 82 Olive Mill. I was totally destroyed. Red X in the debris flow. It's back. Thank God. It's taken a lot of work and it's very good. The second flooding, as Janet said, came from Virginia. Caltrans worked on a pipe. Anyway, this pipe, if you go to Virginia, you will see the pipe come down and it comes over the fellow next door, the back thing there, and it comes underneath what I call the Casbah. I mean, this has been a Moroccan palace for a long time. I bought in 1993, and that owner at the time, she was a dancer. They were adding things, doing things to it. It's very interesting, and I have no problem. It's very eccentric. But it's interesting. I mean, if I had the money, I probably would have, except now that I know so much about flooding and everything else. But the thing is, underneath the building, there is a culvert on Danielson, and the Montecito Creek, which I am an expert on, opens and goes that direction. From my property, I'm depressed. I'm slightly depressed. This is not, the easements into their garage is flat. But the garage is where we are is slightly down, and I'm the most depressed part. The mud moves towards that corner, and it's heading for the ocean, but it's heading through, and Danielson many years ago was flooded. So my only point here is I'm fine with the architectural. I mean, you can have a lot of fun with this property if you want to put a lot of money into it, but it's very important that their drain, because the drain is right there. And the fire department said to me, be sure your gardeners make sure this drain, which is in front of almost their garages, is clear of leaves all the time. Because if it backs up, the driveway backs up. And with the atmospheric rivers, this can happen. But that doesn't affect the architecture of this house because it's a little higher. But it certainly affects the easement. That's for sure. And we are on the easement, and Maureen Phillips, who also did those letters, is on the easement. We have cars. So the parking is an issue too. I don't know where they're going to put the cars. They're going to put them on Danielson, I guess. I mean, that's a question. But it's a very unique property. It's very interesting. My only thing is, in doing the architecture, that drainage is really important. It becomes very important because Caltrans they curved the drain into that, and it comes down that drain. That drain is very important, I can tell you. I know from experience and seeing it, and I've been out there clearing it. So that's all
Thank you very much. Okay, back to Anybody else for public comment, please?
No hands raised, but I do notice that we do have someone joining us via telephone. When the item that is of interest comes up, it's *9 to raise your virtual hand. So *9 to raise your virtual hand.
Okay, so I raised the possibility of a site visit. In your commenting, would you say yes or no if you'd like to do that? And then we'll kind of get that figured out. Let's go back to the same order. Bill, please. Comments?
Yeah, so, there's a lot going on here to answer your question, John, about a site visit. I think that would kind of be very helpful to see this property. I did have a question too. Have you taken this to flood review already? Are you at the BFE and the right elevation and all that kind of stuff going on?
Yes, we have been coordinating with flood control. We're wrapping up some of the substantial improvement paperwork and determinations, appraisals, et cetera. But yes, we've been communicating with them since.
So you're setting the house below BFE, but you're doing the substantial conformity to see if you can get around having to lift the whole floor up. Is that
Correct.
right? Oh,
Yes.
boy. Okay. Also, I think Kimberly and David, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong. Do we not need in Montecito to have 3 car spaces, 2 covered, 1 uncovered? Or Kimberly?
Brand new, I think it's a brand new house from a permitting.
So the way the ordinance reads, it talks about an addition of over 50%. The planner would have evaluated the amount of square footage being added minus the amount of square footage being removed. And actually, now that I'm thinking of it, this is in the coastal zone, so that requirement is not in the coastal zone of Montecito. They are required to provide 2 parking spaces covered or uncovered in coastal Montecito.
So coastal, so we're okay with 2.
Yes.
So yeah, I think a site visit for sure. One of my concerns is there's a lot of paving there, including the area that you're keeping as carport. And my feeling is that, everybody will go away and that'll become a parking spot. And my feeling would be to take that back to landscape, make a yard, green it up, whatever you need to do, but get rid of the big rolling gate and just make it a planted area. That would be my desire, in efforts to try and help ease a lot of this paving and hardscape and roof. And it looks like even just in the photo there, the aerial, there's just a lot of roof going on and very little site and landscape happening and a lot of hardscape. So, I think it'd behoove you to dress that up a little bit with landscape as best you can. And then I don't know about the discussion about the neighbors talking about the easement, maybe look into that. That would be important to see what you got going on there. If there's a utility easement in the back and you're building over it, or provide proof. Planners don't always have the information you do about easements. So, including the garage being in the easement, that would be a tough one. So anyway, those are my thoughts so far. And a site visit would be something I'd like to see.
Thank you.
Chip, please, comments?
Just a quick question. Are you cutting the pool back?
No, the pool remains.
No.
The pool, we discovered permits that it was permitted in this location, so it's remaining. It is in the front yard. It does have an encroachment, but it does have permits. That's not part of the scope to permit it.
Okay. Can you go to the elevations? All right. Yeah, the elevation. That's it. So this is the design review board, and it seemed like there's a lot of elements here that were added, were not permitted. And if I understand it properly, now you begin to cut things out to make it more in compliance with the zoning and everything. And what you're ending up with, I don't know what you're calling this, but it just, I definitely, I think we had to take a look at the whole project, how everything come together, and not piecemeal cutting and try to make it comply to zoning. That's just one aspect of what you are doing here. So I definitely cannot approve it the way it is. The architecture is fragmented and no landscaping, and every time you cut something, I think you flat it out, and it's just not good architecture for the site and for the neighborhood. I'm not sure if the site visit would help or not, but based on what you presented today, at least from my opinion, I can't support it. And I prefer you remove everything that was built and not permitted, come back with a good solution, how to tie the house together, make a cohesive design with the landscaping and everything, and that's what this site deserves. Thank you.
You.
Rob, please.
So I, to some degree, agree with those comments, but for me, my focus would be just I think you might be able to solve some of your problems with hardscape and landscape. And if that was given some more thought and better documented and developed in a way, it might be able to help, some of the architectural shortcomings. I'm confused. What is the inspiration of the finial piece on the one turret there? Is that a bishop from a chess set, or what is that?
It may have been.
Yeah,
It's a mystery.
yeah, okay. And I think that goes hand in hand with what some members are saying, that it's kind of, use the word fragmented. I think that's a good description. But so, as far as, so the hardscape landscape, but, for me, and the other part of that is the entry gates. Entry gate, obviously, I think that, if you're able to, if the consensus that allows you to kind of piecemeal this together and make improvements here and there, then that would be one of the pieces that that I think is really important to, is the entry gates, the entry gate itself, that whole entry presentation. Right now, it looks pretty, I see a lot of concrete, a lot of paving. It's not really well executed. So, I mean, so I think that's why I'm saying, like, landscaping and entry gates and hardscape, I think those things cumulatively in total might be able to help you work with this house and make it successful, where maybe you don't have to go all the way to completely tear it down. But I reserve, a site visit would help kind of maybe give me an answer one way or the other. So anyways, thank you.
Thank you.
Robert, comments, please.
It's very busy home, but its massing is pretty well broken up.
That's the understatement of the year, Rob.
Yeah. I'm not sure you really can build this for less than, putting up a more cohesive structure, but I guess a site visit would help understand it. I'm a little confused at this point, but I'm open for the site visit. That's my only comment.
Thank you.
Stacy, please.
I mean, I think I agree with Bill about the front and landscaping. It needs some softening. And I do think a site visit, because I don't think it's the kind of house where I just don't think a line drawing really does it justice, most likely. And to really kind of feel it in its space before we just judge it on a flat surface, I think might be very beneficial and helpful. I am concerned about the stormwater. I think that's going to come up via planning and has to be addressed, as well as the easement issue off the back. And I do hear about the flooding, and it's a concern. But that's also something I think that's left to planning and hydrology to inform, as opposed to the board. So yeah, I'm ready to move to a site visit.
Thank you.
Dave, please.
Well, I think you're improving an existing condition. You're bringing entire structure up to code. It sounds like you're getting rid of the non-conforming issues. I'm assuming you'll have to go through the permitting process for the drainage and all that. So that should be resolved. You're working with flood control. So I see all those as very positive. I also see as a positive that most everybody that's seen the structure says it's very unique. It's eclectic, but it potentially is worth saving, and so I'm definitely up for that too. The rub is looking at these plans, I can't make sense of anything, and I don't know. So I think a site visit is really important to understand what's going on there, but it seems like, you're conforming to the FAR, single story. The neighbors aren't concerned about it, so I'm open to supporting it, but I have to understand what it is, and I think a site visit would help greatly with that.
Thank you.
Okay, so my question is this building from a planning point of view existing or not? And I think it's not. Now, the vast majority of this building has not been permitted, therefore it doesn't exist from a planning point of view. Okay? So I don't know how they will review it, but I don't think I can vote for it until I hear that the building department has reviewed it and says, yeah, we understand that the vast majority of this is actually a new building. And they're going to double your fees, but then they're all, it's 2022 code. It's not 1970 or 71, whatever code it might have been under had it been done then. Same with fire. Same with drainage. So in terms of the easements, I don't think the county of Santa Barbara cares about your private easements. I think that that's a civil matter. I think it's between you and them, and whether or not they can encroach on it, I don't know. I've never seen the easement, but this kind of an easement, which grants access on the back, is almost always a private matter rather than a public matter. Now, maybe when the lots was split, that was created and it's part of a public requirement, I don't know. But that is not, I think that the issue of this garage getting built over it and the building in the lower right-hand corner being built over it, I think that that's between the utility company and the homeowner. I don't know that we have any jurisdiction. We normally look out for it. If they're not conforming with it, if they do it, it's their responsibility. If Edison or whomever it is wants to do work, they have the right to come in and do the work. So that's number one. I need to know before I can vote for this, what other permitting agencies say about this building.
Sure.
I understand your argument, it's so cute and it's got details we can never replicate and things like that. I understand that, but, and I'm not saying anybody here did anything, but I also want a site visit. Maybe my opinion will change because it's so charming that we couldn't possibly get anything close to it. But I think that Tip's comments about flat walls are extremely relevant. The way you're solving it is with a great big huge saw and cement plaster. That's not very delicate, so anyway. And I think that the whole concept of flood and flood control, do they recognize this as not being built? And therefore, would that trigger 2 feet above flood, or have they not gotten into that? Has it not been disclosed to them fully like this?
It has been.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
just as long as they're okay, then I think, but I need to know that we're not kind of being led along.
Sure.
So, and that's my comment. 2 other minor things. you use the wrong lot area from what I can figure out. If you use the lot area 0.19, the FAR is 104. And the light fixtures are not compliant with glare requirements. There's two requirements. One is night sky and the other is glare, and those have not been, they can be converted, but they're not now. So that's a really minor issue in comparison to everything else. Is there anything else from anybody before we go on, please? Thank you very much. Good luck. We'll see you at a site visit at some point.
Appreciate it.
Item number 2, 104 San Ysidro Road, please. Go ahead whenever you're ready, please.
Thank you. So this property is a craftsman style home, historic in nature. The initial intent behind the project from the client's perspective was to do an interior renovation. During the process of doing this discovery for the interior renovation, we realized that the foundation was in disrepair. So the foundation and the framing of this home was sitting on cobblestone for the skirt around the foundation, and then the floor joists were actually just sitting on dirt. And so there was quite some magnitude to the foundation repairs that needed to transpire. And so what that led to was a conversation with the client about other opportunities that would arise out of that foundation repair. And to be fair, the foundation repair is pretty extensive. They bought the house because they loved the charm of its historical nature and they wanted to keep that intact as much as possible. And so through that process, we submitted for an initial renovation permit for the foundation, as well as some exterior like-for-like modifications on the exterior materialities. During this process, we also identified that the windows were in kind of bad shape and still historical in nature. So the clients really loved the historical nature and wanted to update the windows to a place to where they could get some soundproofing out of it. This home sits right next to the roundabout at 101, as well as the San Ysidro exit. And so if you're occupying the two rear bedrooms, you just hear lots of traffic noise. And so with this foundation repair, they also realized, okay, this could be a good opportunity to update some of the other exterior elements like the windows. We are making some small modifications to door and window locations to allow for the house to be a little bit more indoor-outdoor oriented, as well as also modifying the massing slightly in a few locations, specifically the entry location. We're elevating the roof pitch. The house has been developed over time and added to. And in the image you're looking at here, right behind this heritage oak, you can see this a little bit of an elevated addition. That was actually a lean-to that was provided before or created before. And so we wanted to bring it back to more of a hip style roof. The front portion of that is a gable. If you'd like to go to the elevations, you might be able to see that a little more clearly. But the idea there is to just define the entry sequence a little bit more. Whereas previously the hip was, or the gable was very low profile. And so we're trying to accentuate that a little bit. It's a recessed entry sequence. So there's a porch and then a front door. And so that's the concept behind creating a little bit more mass there. And then additionally, we are looking at, there are two other detached structures on the site. Those have both been deemed by a historian as well as a structural engineer as not being suitable for essentially occupancy, given its deterioration in the foundation as well as some of its framing members. Again, this is another portion of the project that has a foundation that's literally sitting on the soil. They weren't built at the same time as the main residence, but they have been built and in their position for a period of time. The historian in their memo has defined those two structures as, lack of a better term, free to be altered. And so what our concept here is to remove those two structures and then add a new garage. The garage will be in the same similar style as the main house. It will be attached. We will be creating this hyphen element to attach the structures, which was recommended by the historian, as well as utilize a little bit of different cladding, a board and batten style cladding, to signify its place in time, and not completely mimic, but be in sequence and in harmony with the main house. And so those are the main elements that we're accommodating and adjusting with this property, as well as there's a pretty extensive amount of hardscape and landscape, which the landscape architect can talk a little bit about that. So this is Courtney.
Hello, Courtney Jane Miller, landscape architect. Did you want to walk them through the site plan at all so they can be oriented
Sure.
to what you just described?
Yeah, not a problem.
Cool.
Yeah, so there's a few elements here that are also to note with the site plan. The first is the drive apron, the existing drive apron off of San Ysidro Road is an easement that is shared by both. So it's the lower drive apron. That's actually access to get to the property below this property that fronts onto. It's on the corner. Basically, it's right around the roundabout. What's the road? Jameson Road, yeah, sorry. And so there's a property that basically sits on the corner of San Ysidro and Jameson, and this is the way they access it. And then what is being proposed is a new access that works within the fire code. So fire access to get the fire trucks and all their pools and in and outs. Courtney's done a great job in coordinating that. And then so the sequence is that the front door actually occupies almost the middle of the site. And so there's a progression that happens across the site with basically the entry to the building. And then so it's kind of north-south facing. And so what is considered the front yard is really almost a side yard. And then the backyard, again, is almost a side yard. So you'll identify that the main structure is towards kind of the center of the lot. And then the rear of the property is where the two former or existing accessory structures are located. And then you can see next to what the pool is being identified is where the new garage will be occupying the space.
Is there an architectural site plan that we could pull up? I think that would help.
Do you have the page?
I think it's got it in front of me here. It's just a few pages. Yeah, so it's oriented basically 180 degrees, but this gives you kind of the context in terms of the architectural site plan.
Are you guys done?
No.
Oh. Are you confused by the flip site plan?
I am.
Yeah, I was.
Sorry.
Yeah, could you guys get together on that?
Yeah, we'll coordinate that better next time.
We did. So if you want to go back to the landscape plan, I can walk you through it. So the main house is in the center of the plan. The garage is at the rear or to the right. And what Michael was describing at the entry off San Ysidro is basically we were trying to simplify the driveway approach. Since the garage is at the rear, it makes sense to, have a pretty much a straight shot towards the back of the property. But the other challenge we have is, of course, fire access and being able to pull a truck in. And so currently, the existing driveway approach is actually at the bottom of the plan where we have the easement, which is that second apron. And the driveway comes straight in towards the house and then turns to the left. And it's really a challenge to make the turning radius work for fire access, in addition to the fact that it's just not a desirable approach, in my opinion, to have a car coming straight out of bedroom and then, it's very close to the corner of the house. So that's a little bit of the story behind how we rearranged the driveways there. The other goal was to just minimize the amount of paving. Right now, it's sort of a kind of a sea of paving, or the existing condition was. And so we're trying to minimize that, still provide some parking in the front. And then, of course, access into the garage at the rear. In terms of the gardens, the house is an arts and crafts style. And so we're really working with that and trying to create a series of more intimate outdoor rooms and spaces. The client loves this idea of having private, smaller gardens off of each of the bedrooms. So you'll see it's a very simplistic plan since we're such early stages, but we have 2 brick patios off the north and 2 off the south. Those are all connected to bedrooms. So that's the intent there. They would like a small pool. So we have that located off of the kitchen and, kind of a outdoor living deck space. And so that's what's happening kind of in the middle of the plan. And then along the south, we have a very large existing oak tree that we're working around. And what we like to do there is we're calling it a whimsy garden. It will be more of a native California planting type of approach, really minimalistic. And then if you could go to the page before this, I do want to walk through the existing trees too. So we did have, was it Duke that did we did have Duke McPherson do an arborist report. Here are the 3 trees at the top of the plan, top left, are pittosporum, and there's 1 jacaranda that's been pretty mangled over time. Just below that, we have a beautiful canary palm. It's a multi, really mature, and we're planning to keep that. At the bottom of the plan, we have an existing Quercus agrifolia. It's quite large, and we're working around that and protecting that as well. And let's see, if you want to go back to the landscape plan really briefly, let me just see if there's anything else I need to touch on. We're planning on gravel, brick, and likely some sort of porcelain paver around the pool area. And I think, around the perimeter of the property, there's an existing fence along the north property line and actually around all 3 sides of the property that will be protecting in place. I believe we're replacing the fence along the south property line.
Yes.
Is that right? And we'll be, implementing a series of hedges around the perimeter as well. In the front, we are planning on a simple vegetative screen, so a hedge along the front rather than a fence or a wall. There's also a really beautiful existing feature along the front of the property. It's a stone column. There are 2. They're quite fat and round, and they're original to the property from. We have 2 different dates. It's either 1904 or 1908. And one of them has the words Wilbron Lodge, which was the original name of the property. So we're planning on protecting those and kind of forming a garden around them. I believe that concludes our presentation unless Michael has anything.
You done also? Okay,
that's
very
good.
good. Thank you. Questions, Dave, please.
No questions.
Robert,
I'm a bit flummoxed by, you need a whole new foundation, siding, doors and windows. Are we on the precipice of this being a tear down?
please.
I don't believe so. I think the historical nature of the house itself, the majority of which is going to be intact. There are a lot of elements that we've preserved within the house. And so that's part of the reason the client has gone to the extent of trying to preserve as much as possible. So
Is it down to the studs inside? I mean, have you inspected the electrical and the plumbing?
there are elements that have been retained from the house itself, yes.
Knob and tube, or is it like?
The house
recent
did actually have it's been renovated over time.
Okay.
And so it wasn't in the state in which it's, all the elements have been in disrepair. So, I mean, the foundation was the biggest element. And so it's just, they're going back with the majority of the windows and doors are going to be just identical to what was there before. And so that's kind of the goal.
No more questions.
Stacy, questions, please.
Hey, can we look at the landscape site plan, please? So I understand moving the driveway around. What is the width of the driveway going back to the garage?
I believe, am I still on? I believe it's 16 at the front and then it narrows up to 12 as you go back.
And I'm looking at the garage. How much backup space do you have coming out of there?
Would you like me to answer that?
I don't think I know that.
Yeah, so we're going to achieve 22 feet.
That's really tight.
It is tight, and that's why you see the kind of pull out on the,
You see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I also see there's no radius on it either.
Mhm.
Coming out for the car that's parked on that end, just,
sure.
it's a question. And the material coming back, I assume, is that chip seal? So gravel on asphalt
We haven't decided yet.
for fire?
Mhm.
Typically they require. So that's, okay. And then two, what are you thinking of hedging for the screening? All new hedges?
Mhm.
Or is that anything existing for screening?
There aren't any existing hedges currently, so it'd be all new.
All new?
Mhm.
Okay, and then two, in the materials, I looked on the house, that you're specifying an El Dorado stone. Did you consider, with the age of the house, keeping it a little more authentic and going with a real stone?
Yeah, we're still vetting options for the stone veneer. El Dorado was something that the client really enjoyed,
Okay,
but working with the historian, we're trying to decide on a more river worn type of stone to kind of go back in similarity with the cobblestone. So that is something we are investigating.
okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep. Questions, please.
Yes, so, okay, I have several questions. Number one, it said here that you are retaining detached accessory building. Which one is that?
We're not retaining the detached.
Which is not correct.
Correct. If that had been mentioned, we're not retaining, and
So you took out both buildings in the back.
we're going to be taking out both accessory structures that have been deemed.
And one of them was the garage.
One of them was a garage, yes.
Okay, number two, can I see the elevation, ex- okay, I'll keep going. Okay, which one is the new garage?
It would be, keep going. This is the makeup of the new garage.
Do you have the elevation, how the garage?
Side by side.
Yeah, tied to the house?
Sorry, we did not produce that because we just saw it was being a very.
Can I see the elevation of the house, or which is the one that has a garage in front of it?
Okay, so that would be then, if you go one more up, yeah, exactly.
Wait.
One more down. Yeah, so the garage, you can begin to see the cut line for where that,
So the garage is in the back.
well, it's,
Yeah,
the
based on
side.
this elevation is in the back,
sure,
in front,
yeah.
but it's attached to the house.
It's attached, and you can see the attachment element right behind that railing. Yes,
Oh,
correct.
so you don't have a continuous,
Correct. Yeah, so it's
Okay.
two separate masses is what we're trying
but
to
it's a
achieve.
one elevation.
One elevation, yes.
And where's the pool in that elevation?
The pool, you would see the pool, I mean, it's hard to identify here. It would be basically right in front of the steps that you're seeing.
And how are you separating the pool from the driveway?
Currently, we're proposing a wall there. So it'd be enclosed. The whole northerly part of the yard would be enclosed. So the driveway has,
So just a wall,
Edge.
no landscaping, just a wall.
well, there'll be landscaping, yes,
There wouldn't be any landscaping in front of the wall.
between the wall and the pool
Yeah,
or
because
on the other side.
you're not showing any landscaping right now between the pool, the wall, and the driveway.
No, and actually we've adjusted that since this was submitted and pulled the pool away from the wall. So it's not so, it doesn't feel so commercial.
Okay. And what is the area behind the garage? The gray area.
Behind the garage is another small garden area. We have vegetable beds planned there and a small seating area.
So it's not paving.
Currently it's shown as gravel.
So it's gravel and planting.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you move the driveway, it seemed like the driveway now coming in to the right of the middle planters, correct? So you move to the left of it. You cut the opening.
Mhm.
And by doing that, you are removing several tall trees. Right, correct?
Yes. 3.
Okay, and by doing that, is there a reason why you still want to keep the parking on the right of the island? Because existingly, the park on the right tied to the entrance to the driveway.
I
You see
don't-
low parking you have in front of the house.
Yeah. I don't think I understand the question though.
So
Question.
currently, if you look at the existing condition, the parking in front and the driveway are together. The existing condition, can you open up the existing site plan? I mean, like the picture? From Google Zoom?
Mm.
Can you look, yes, that's what I meant right here. So when you're coming in right now, the driveway and the parking are together. So when you separate them out, you still retain the parking on the right.
So the parking, that's not actually, mine.
Okay.
That is an easement to access the adjacent property. So that's actually more of a road than parking. Do you see the gate?
Oh, so that's a road.
Yeah, that is a road to actually get to the adjacent property that fronts onto.
Okay, so what are you doing? You're closing off that entrance completely.
Yes.
The goal is that at some point there's a legality wise, there is a process in place that once the adjacent property establishes entry off of Jameson, then this easement will go away. And we can actually use that as like planted vegetation space. But until that happens, this easement will stay intact.
Can you go back to the landscape plan? All right, so I guess my last question would be, have you looked at the option of putting the garage right in front and eliminating all the paving? The pool be better, the backyard be better, and you don't have any driveway turning around and all that kind of things.
That has not been something that we've studied. I think because of the history on the site, it lended us more to keeping in line with what was there previously, with the massings being more, the accessory massings more towards the rear of the property and still having that same progression across the site. But it's something that we can bring up to the client as a study. I know that they've really liked the historical kind of aspects of the site, and that's what they've been trying to maintain. But it's definitely not something that we studied.
That's it. Thank you.
Rob,
Yeah, actually, I think that last comment was really something you should look at. I think it would solve so many problems because one of my questions was, have you considered a ribbon driveway? And so it's all these kind of things. And then Courtney, you talked about, having a wall by the pool. And then I thought, well, that's an opportunity to do something cool on that wall. So there's like lots of little things that you almost need to do to kind of resolve this, having that driveway there. So his suggestion kind of kills about 5 birds with 1 stone kind of thing. What is basically I think the imagery that I see is and where you're going with the hardscape and landscape is completely appropriate in the right direction. The palm tree kind of doesn't really, that might be one for sale, just I mean, I understand it's a nice established palm, but with where the project seems to be going, the vernacular of it doesn't seem like the palm trees really quite fits in. Let's see, so, and I know that's a comment more than a question, but yes, what is why is the walk on the south side by the, what is that, Heritage Oak kind of have that wiggle to it? Is there some roots there or something?
That we're still developing the design for that part of the garden, so it's,
This
we
was
wanted
just-
to have it feel a little bit more organic over there, but I think in the end, it'll be a different material than what's to the plan left.
Oh, I thought maybe there was like a massive root
No.
kind of projecting.
No, whimsical.
Okay. I missed the whimsy on it, sorry. Let's see. Yeah, and again, back to the pool. I mean, it sounds like you see that and you're already resolving it, because I was gonna say, why not do a longer, more of a lap pool or something like that? So all those things again go back to bringing that garage up resolves it. What was my last? Oh, and so I like where you're headed. The only other minor comment, Courtney, is I love common lilac. I hope it doesn't do so well around here. It's kind of it likes more of the cold, the Syringa vulgaris, but every now and then it's worth trying that stuff and see if it works. Hey, if it works, it's an awesome plant. So anyways, that's my question for now. Thank you.
May I make just a quick comment? Now that you guys got me thinking about the location of the garage,
Huh?
I will say one thing that in defense to where it's currently located is just the general program of the house and the way the house is laid out. The proximity to the kitchen space, the mudroom space within the house is literally right next to the garage. And so in terms of like the actual use of the house, it does lend itself a little bit better functionality wise, maybe not in the site plan setting, but in the functionality of the house, just having that proximity, bringing in groceries, those types of things, it does lend itself a little bit better functionally within being in its current location.
okay, Bill, questions, please.
Yeah, a lot of the questions I were going to ask were covered. Just so I can get my head around it, the perimeter of the existing house pretty much is going to stay except for the garage attachment. Is that right, kind of? And you're going to place doors, windows, new foundation.
Yep.
So really, it's a lot about the site placement, the garage placement is what I see. The main entry is on the north side. Is that correct? This little patio on this, is that a patio on the south that has that walkway that goes to the oak, but then
Correct.
to the left, it dives into nowhere land, which maybe that's a gate to the front at some point?
And you're talking about the porch to the rear.
Yep.
It's basically straddling the two fountains on either side.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that actually opens up into kind of a more family room, off that.
Where does that path go, though?
Oh, the
It
side
ends
path?
Nowhere.
I believe there's going to be a little bit more of an intimate garden. I can let you discuss that.
It just stops at the fence there, right now, the path.
Guys, that corner will have stormwater, I forget exactly.
Yeah, there's going to be some type of dry well bioswale that will need to be there for stormwater management on the site.
So we're still developing what's happening in that corner because we're coordinating with.
And in the future, as you say, that easement may go away then, huh? And
Well, that piece will, where it's essentially ending right now, there is a continuous wall there. And so that corner will house some of our, again, best practices for the stormwater management.
And the gray material is kind of a gravel material. And you had mentioned the garage position there. Could the garage be moved forward on the lot where you could then have better access to the rear, sort of that little garden and private little patio? Could the garage move forward and not block views and maybe the repositioning of the pool? I mean, did you play with a lot of that? Those elements, the pool, the patio, the garage in that area there?
Yeah, I mean, there was a few iterations that went around. I think we landed on this iteration to, one, meet some requirements just on the zoning side of things with floor area ratios and whatnot. So a big element of this too is that the garage, to build a new garage, it has to be attached to the structure to accommodate the recommended FAR by MBAR. So that's one element that we're working with, as well as Courtney mentioned, the client kind of likes the more intimate settings in the nature around the space. She actually enjoys the segmenting of the site to create these more intimate environments. So I think that's a prerogative that the client shared with us early on, and we've kind of tried to maintain that.
Okay, great. That's it. Thank you.
And I have no questions. Public comment, is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 2, 104 San Ysidro Road, please?
No hands raised. Just a reminder, if you're joining us by phone, it's *9 to raise your hand.
Okay, so we are on for concept today. It's first meeting. Comments, Dave?
Well, there's a lot of similarities between the first project that was shown and this one, in that you're going through a lot of gymnastics to save a structure, which I support. It looks like it's worth saving. Your presentation is like the first project is just really difficult to understand. I actually flipped the site plans on my computer here, and that cleared a lot up right off the bat.
Sorry
So
about
I
that.
highly encourage you to align the site plans. Also, super helpful to have the existing elevations next to the proposed. Right now, between the plans and your presentation, it's just hard to take it all in. But I understand your site planning and where you're going with it. I think it's actually a great improvement over what's there now. And I understand what the board members are saying about the driveway continuing all the way to the back. But I could see this working. It's a compromise, but especially if the garage is in the right location for the house and you need it to be attached, I think you've made the parking and the entry a nicer experience. So I can probably support this, but it would be good for you to study those other options too. So again, I don't have my arms around the entire thing, but I think Generally, conceptually, the landscape makes sense to me in the sense that you're creating these small areas. It's the details. And then for the house, you're basically adding an attached garage and preserving what's there for the most part. So I would support that. It's single story and everything. So I think it's a good project. You just need to really make your presentation more concise and help us understand it more quickly and clearly.
Robert, comments?
Can I see the floor plan one more time? Where is the garage?
It's on, off the page to the left.
Is there? Yeah. And that kitchen is existing?
Yes, that's where the kitchen currently is
Laundry
located.
is existing? I mean, I think it's a charming house. I really like the architecture. The only thing I don't really care for is that long strip of hardscape going back to the garage. And if you could consider some other alternatives there, that would be good. But in general, you know, it's again, a very charming home and historic in nature, and it's you know, just a matter of, I think, considering the garage and maybe the whole floor plan could be adjusted, but I presume on the left there, those are bedrooms.
Correct, yes.
I don't know if we need a site visit, but I, like Dave, am having a hard time kind of grasping exactly what's going on. Those are my comments.
Stacy, comments, please.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the architecture. I think it's lovely architecture. Um, and this attempt, but I really think the garage needs to be restudied, its location. It is adding, even though I am, by the way, comparing the existing site plan to what's being presented, and I can see that you have in this concept seemingly removed a lot of hardscape from this turnabout that you have currently on the site, going back to the two structures. And I can see how you were feeling in this direction, that you were probably lightening it up, but you filled up a lot of that space that could be gardened with more hardscapes. And there's still just a lot of hardscapes on the site, it reads as such. So I'm concerned about the garage placement and the relationship to the rest of the house, also to its function. Right now, it seems very tight and not very manageable with vehicles in the back on the pullout and the radiuses. Also to the parking in front doesn't seem wide enough to actually handle two cars. It looks like it can really only fit one with its current width. 'Cause you're right next to a hedge. So I think it's just a better site study coming back, mainly having to do with the garages. And then to more landscape, like around the pool, separating, that pool wall from the driveway if you do take it back. It seems also to like the space inside of the pool room, that side of the garage only has one door coming out of it. There's no windows or anything. It's a very, and there's nothing kind of alleviating that. I think just needs more refinement, softening, and a restudy of the garage placement.
Tip, comments, please.
I mean, as Mr. Mandrew mentioned, it's really difficult to follow your drawings. It's so difficult anyway, but I begin to figure out what you're trying to do here, and I realize that, I'm not sure, it seemed like there's some fundamental issues with the site plan about the garage, the swimming pool, the gas parking, the front door. And I'm not really against the garage since I see that the kitchen is right there. But, the location of the pool is, I see that it's on the north side and the south side is on the other side. And it's almost like you're driving through a motel with a pool on the right-hand side before you get to the parking. And it just look convoluted in terms of how the layout work, and then where the gas park, and then how do you find the front door, which had to walk right through the lawn all the way to the middle to the front door. So the whole thing, it just I- I I think that you could probably spend some time rework the site a little bit better. Either you move the garage out front and rework the flow and make it a better pool area, or you move the pool to the other side and make it, a little more private instead of driving through it. And then how the gas parking to the front door. So there's a lot of issues here, I think. And when you see it, it's half the site is paving because of that. And so, yeah, you can relook at that and come up with something that make a great improvement to the project. It's a great project, and I think that just the right combination will be great.
Rob, comments, please.
So, I mean, I do, and Tip is on his own. I think that, that if you move the garage and do that, it just solves so many things. And one of the things that's happening is it's having this tendency, for one, you're having to fix a bunch of stuff, and then it's chopping things up. And I think this, if you moved it, it would allow you to have this contiguous kind of pool area and green space and open space. And I think you could do all that in context with the historical character of this property. And so I know Courtney will do a good job, and I think this project will be really successful it just gives you so much more opportunity to kind of have some really nice pool area, really nice green space, and not have it compromised by a driveway. I mean, Tip's comment is a little harsh, but the motel effect or something. But I mean, I think if you do that, I think I think you have all the right pieces for it to be really successful. So I would encourage to really look at that. And then if you come back and say, we looked at that and it just doesn't work, what we've got now is a better solution, then at least, we'll feel like, you've done everything you can. And so then then I would support this at that point. So thank you.
Bill, comments, please.
Dave, could you go to the cover sheet? I was just curious what the FAR was. If you had it detached, would you be
Zoom in.
over 110%?
Zoom in.
We would, and that's just based on the calculation there.
Okay.
Well, no, what?
When it's detached.
So how
right?
big's your garage? How big's your garage, please?
It's going to be 900 square feet. The client also wants to be able to do, he's a craftsman himself. He does woodworking. And so part of the garage element is that there will be a little bit of woodworking that's done in there.
Okay.
So,
I'm kind of following suit with the other members of the board in terms of the garage position, 12-inch wide driveway down, a little bit of planting on one side, a site wall with everything kind of jammed up against it. Tight back up on the garage, cutting off that back area, which may be fine from the rest of the lot. Seems like if you can massage the garage a little, I was thinking, could you go up as close as 4 feet to the setback? You might check with your planner to see what kind of setback distances you have on the side yards when you have garages. Kimberly might know what you can do there, but and could you do a porte-cochere or a roof covered something that wasn't necessarily glass that you could walk through as an entry? I mean, there's all sorts of things I think you come up with. I don't want to design it for you, but it just seems, as Rob was saying, you could kind of check off a lot of things that might be somewhat problematic for what we're seeing here, and I think you could end up with a better product. The house, wonderful. I love what you're doing there. I think it looks great. The architecture is great. The style you got nailed. So I think it's just the position of that garage. That's really my only beef at this point, so. That's it. Thanks.
Can we go back to that FAR, please? And zoom in, please. How much is the shop and how much is the garage, please? 50-50, round numbers?
No, so the client's also thinking long-term about how they occupy this house. So the garage is actually, it tends to be a little bit wider because
About how many square feet, please?
I would say maybe the shop is 200 square feet of the 900.
700 square feet for a two-car garage?
The idea is that they're able to get wheelchairs in and out. If anybody is in a scooter, they want to be able to prepare for that. So that's why they did the width in which they did.
Okay. Can you scroll down so we can see the 496? Because of the great understanding of how our community works, they're giving you 496 square feet of a detached building, free of charge FAR. If you can get a garage in for 496 and you're at 109 and we routinely approve 110, I think you can detach it. I think you can do it if you want. If you don't want to do it, I think you can find a million excuses not to do it. Okay, and then leave, right? So, and then leave the shop in the back. I am sure that she will want to hear all that noise next to her kitchen, but I think you can do it. And Courtney all of a sudden gets a really nice palette. I mean, this big, huge area without all kinds of asphalt. And kids can run around safely back there, not drive, So take a good hard look at it, please.
Yeah, I think we just, to be fair, we just kind of went with what the historical massing was. And so that kind of led our design in a lot of ways.
Okay, members of the board, we obviously have basically one thing, right? Back for preliminary?
I think further conceptual.
Further conceptual, so the pathway would be further conceptual at the full board, preliminary final on consent. That's where you're probably headed. Okay, so one more full meeting with us. Okay, unless you can't get it done, but chances are one more with us. Okay,
I was just gonna say, I mean, they can come in for conceptual preliminary so that they could come
No,
away
there
the
is no
next time.
such
Okay,
thing.
there you go. So.
thank you, good luck.
Thank you.
Item number 3, 1255 East Mountain Drive.
Alan McLeod with A34 Studio.
Okay, can you get the mic really close? We're
I-
broadcasting around the world.
I can. First things though, I've been hitting really badly recently. None of you designed the original house, right?
No.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. My last 2 presentations, I actually hit the architect on the board for the design of the original house. So just checking. Okay, we're located at 1255 East Mountain Road, just at the top of Hot Springs Road.
It's actually Mountain Drive. There is
Mountain
a-
Drive, I'm sorry.
There is a mountain road as well, so
Good. Okay, if we turn to the next sheet, we'll go through this existing survey. So there's an easement running down the western side of the property that serves 2 or 3 other lots. We enter the project off this easement off the main road. The existing building is identified in gray. Existing patio is out to the southern portion of the property. We turn to the next sheet. We have a series of photographs taken from around the site. The first being entry into the drive court. The second, as we approach the entry to the house. 2B off the drive court is entrance to the garage as we move around the house. You can identify the clean white form of the existing house and the landscape wall. And as we move around, there's out in front of the home, there's a couple of big olives. It has a very small front patio. As we move around, the pool is located on the eastern side of the house. And then the last photograph is looking into the dining room from that pool court. Next photograph. The existing floor plan as it stands today. The house was originally built in the 80s. The big round form on the southern portion of the house that's on the view side is part of the element which we're going to remove from the house. It was an add to the original form of the house. We're going to do a interior remodel. That garage is going to be converted to an ADU with some additional square footages, and we're adding a garage to the drive court, as well as a storage building to the pool side of the house. Existing elevations can be identified next sheet. Very clean, modern form, punched openings, a single punched opening to each of the spaces. Garage door was a simple punch as well. You can identify on the top of the top elevation, the south elevation, the round rotunda, which is being removed. We go to the next sheet. We have proposed site plan. The hashed locations are demo. And we can work through the drive court. To the western side of the house, we have the new garage form. We have a gray, the new ADU in the existing garage. We've reworked the entry element. The client really likes the circular element as part of that entry sequence, so they want to keep that. As we work through the site plan, we're identifying a new pool, which we've orientated north-south, not east-west, so that we actually get an outdoor patio that works. And then with removal of the round rotunda, we're looking at replacing that with a trellis element just for sun modulation. We turn to the next sheet. We have the proposed site, the proposed floor plan, where we actually take the kitchen from the western side of the house and move it over to the opposite side of the house.
We don't care about floor plan.
I know you don't. All right. So then if we turn to the next, the elevation sheet, 302. We're keeping the form of the house, same height, same form. We're not altering the form of the house. We're actually, from a window standpoint, we're opening up the southern elevation for a large slider, which we're using a trellis to modulate that sun. And we're doing a trellis over the off the kitchen side of the house, which would be that eastern elevation. And then the new garage form, again, we're just pulling straight off the existing home, a very simple block form off the drive court. If that's the next sheet, David. Same thing with a small storage, 2-car garage. And then finally, the last element which we can talk about is a new gate for the front entry. The home is located right at the Hot Springs Trail entrance, and we have a lot of traffic coming in to the drive court to ask if they can park. So we would like to eliminate that. Questions?
Are you done, please?
I am. I'm hoping I didn't confuse you guys today.
Rob, questions, please.
Let's go to the site plan, please. Perhaps people want to park there because it's awfully big.
It's going to be a lot smaller now that
Okay, so that was my
my
question. There was, have you considered reconfiguring that whole motor court and so that you can introduce kind of some some programming into and you know, so it helps kind of become clearer as to where you park it, and just adding some landscaping into that. In fact, actually, what is the paving in there? What is it now?
It's a sand cast concrete. It's all broken up as well.
So it's got to be replaced
Yeah,
anyhow.
it's going to be replaced as we go through
And
construction.
and then just out of stormwater management and issues like that, just to reduce the paving, we'll kind of open lots of things up. Okay, so that was that. So then on the all right, so as far as the rear yard and pool
Yes.
area, seems like it so what's happening there? Is the pool is there an infinity edge or something going on there? Or?
Yes, there is an infinity edge. The pool right now is located east-west, and we've reworked it to the north-south orientation just to open up an area to be able to have a dining table and some seating, because right now it doesn't exist. It's a relatively small pool and spa, and that we're effectively pushing it to our extent. Because basically, once we hit those edges, it drops off very quickly, as can be seen in the.
So then where you're taking out that circular part of the building, that's all contiguous.
With the living space, yes.
I mean, okay. And then, all right. I think that's worth looking at. And so it's awfully pinched off in that one spot too. What's happening up there to the north part of it, the upper part of the page, where then you have the stairs and.
That's a trellis and a storage building for outdoor storage. That's an outdoor storage space that's gonna house things like cushions, and it's all that patio, those elements that you don't put anywhere when you go on vacation. So we're accommodating for that.
And have you looked at kind of different ways to kind of incorporate the pool in terms of and the amount of hardscape and how it's all distributed? Have you looked at some other options on that?
The scale is quite misleading. If we
Yeah, it seems to be.
If we run a set of chaises and a couch out there, that pretty much is the entire area. It's actually quite small.
Okay, that's why it's actually kind of great in presentations to show chaise lounges and furniture, because it helps people understand the intent.
Yeah,
those are my questions. Thank you.
Robert, questions, please.
No questions.
Tip, questions, please.
No questions.
Bill, questions, please.
Yeah, so what's happening in the backyard? I mean, you've got quite a slope there. If
Yes.
I walk out of the house there, past the rotunda that you removed and keep going straight,
Yep.
is there a drop off to
Yeah,
the?
it's a 2-foot landscape wall and a 45-degree slope down towards the neighbors, who we have reached out to and met with their representatives to make sure that they're okay with the addition
So
and the remodel.
the highest wall from grade to the deck is 2 feet?
Yeah, so it goes a 2-foot wall and then hits grade and then basically tapers at 45 degrees.
Okay, so you won't need a barrier railing? Are you?
No, it's been existing, we're keeping the existing wall where it's located.
Okay, and that's where it's at?
Yep.
Okay, all right. For some reason, I thought it was coming out further, but the area that's stippled, is that new?
This.
Stippled, shaded area there behind what was the garage there? See that patio?
Yes, so you've got the drive court that is demoed and rebuilt. It's remodeled out of the entry. And then we're not planning on touching any of the landscape, which is all really nicely established right now on that northern side of the house.
Well, I'm talking about the area that's on the.
On the southern, yeah,
Southern
that's going to
side.
become outdoor dining, outdoor seating under the trellis.
That's new there.
It's actually all
Pavings.
Yeah, the buildings there, there's a couple of olive trees that are right there right now.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we put the trellis in and that becomes the outdoor living area.
And then Rob may have asked this question too, but the patio, the driveway.
Yes.
Area there that's quite large in the entry, is that existing right now?
That's all existing right now.
You're going to
as well.
repave that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And all the landscape walls to the northern portion are all existing locations as well. So there's a tiered landscape walls.
There, yeah.
They're terraced, and then there's you can see the large oak on the street side that's identified. It has a very large
Canopy.
so that reaches over the entire area as well.
All right, that was it. Thank you.
Dave, please. Questions?
No questions.
Stacy, please. Questions?
Yeah, so full disclosure, I did the house below many moons ago. Sorry. No, just so from a perspective of, I know what it looks like looking up. I've always referred to this house as kind of starkitecture. 'Cause it's very stark. And so what are you doing to screen it from the house below? Because we could always kind of see this house.
Well,
Lower property. Are you doing anything to kind of ameliorate that?
we're certainly looking at going not white with it.
Oh,
Start, which will help a lot.
Okay.
And we are doing the trellis element. A lot of it, even from down below, you must only see the top of the building.
yeah, but it was
So,
very present because
yeah.
it was so white.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we're going with a non-white.
What non-white are you going with? Like an off-white? Like, or you don't have color?
I don't have a color yet.
Okay.
We're still working through that.
Okay, and then two, how many cars can you park in that driveway right now?
It's really handy for about 6.
Okay. No more questions?
I have no questions. Public comment. Is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 3, 1255 East Mountain Drive, please?
So again, *9 to raise your hand. No hands raised.
Okay, so we are on for concept today. What should we do next with this project as well as these comments? Rob, comments, please.
Well, I kind of alluded to with my questions. So clearly the motor court needs to be restudied and developed in a manner where I think you lay out how and show how cars are going to park in there. And then so I think that'll help reduce the paving substantially. And then proposing, I'm assuming you're going to do some kind of permeable paver, or at least whatever you end up doing in there, just so yeah, the motor court needs to be worked. And then I guess the pool area, I guess I'm still a little bit confused. You're saying the scale, it's really not that big, but I'm looking at the spa. I mean, is that spa 6x6 or 8x8 or what
Well,
is it?
I think it's around 8x6.
So so that whole terrace out there looks pretty monstrous to me in there, and maybe it's just where you have the pool and all that. So I think it's lacking having more furnishing and other pieces that make me understand how you would live in that space. And right now, it just feels like a massive space, and the pool feels like it's at one end of it. But so I guess I'm encouraging you to look at that. But otherwise, I'm fine where you're going with it and support it. So
Robert, comments, please.
Given that the motor court is existing, right? Then it would be helpful if you showed some pattern or something like Rob said, vehicles and parking. I've never been a fan of this boxy architecture style, but you got what you got. So I think it's a acceptable project, and we should move it forward.
Chip, comments, please.
Yeah, I don't have any further comments, and yeah, I think we've seen this project a couple years ago when it was a second story addition.
Yes.
And yeah, personally, I don't have a problem with the motor court. It's just the way it is. So, thank you.
Bill, please.
Yeah, I think what you're doing with the house is fine. Looks great. Don't have any problem with that. I think you're tying in with the existing. I like the fact that you're taking the rotunda off, not a problem. I too, like Rob, I think that maybe the landscaping development of the courtyard there, trying to pull back as much paving as you can and maybe green it up and make a nice entry space. And then my other concern, which I think Stacy was alluding to, is, the landscaping probably on that south slope, just to kind of help soften the pool and the patios and the things that are kind of happening there. At least if there's landscaping there, to show it to us.
Okay.
And if you need to embellish it and make it a little better, then do that too. But the rest of it, I don't have a problem with. Thanks.
Dave, please, comments?
This is the third one that's hard to read the plans. I think in this case, some of that has to do with the architecture and just how stark it is and all the angles, but generally you're way below the FAR. It doesn't seem like you're impacting community of the neighbors other than what's already been commented about the neighbor below. So working on the screening, anything you can do to help us understand project, just a 3D view of it would make it easier to read. But from what I can tell, you're maintaining a lot of what's there and definitely removing that round rotunda element. And the way you've organized the garage within the courtyard all seems appropriate, but it took me a while to get there.
Is that it? Stacy, please, comments?
Yeah, I think I can echo everything else that the board said. I can support the architecture, and removing the rotunda is brilliant because that was the most looming aspect from below. So that is actually quite helpful. Yeah, I'd like to see a little less hardscape or break it up a little bit. And maybe it's just the graphics and you just need to show us more of what is existing there to kind of just massage it to, have a slightly greener face and a little less of a starkness. And yes, I know the driveway is existing, but if there's some way to add a little shade to it, just soften it out as well, I think that would be an improvement, but the architecture I can fully support.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I also agree that the deck should be restudied and minimized, drainage, all of that, wetter wets and drier dries, and we're gonna have a lot of concentrated flow coming off of that flat roofed house and that deck. So I think you could, I thought Rob's comment about doing a furniture layout was a good one. I use the lot areas given by the county of Santa Barbara, which is all, the assessor's office, which is also on this agenda, which is 0.81. I don't remember what you had, but yours, it was higher than that. So the FAR will go up. It's not a particular problem, but let's at least have the correct information on the drawings. We routinely ask for perimeter landscaping. I don't see any shown here. I see a very steep fill slope, which was built many years ago, I'm sure. But I think we should have either some documentation, but photographic or something, and maybe augmentation, particularly on the south side. But one of the characteristics of Montecito is significant amounts of landscaping with, hopefully by following the FAR, comparatively small houses to the lot. So if you can get that in, and it's really your choice, but I think that a steel gate facing west that's painted black with increasing heat coming, I think that you will actually get people's hands burned if they touch that steel gate. They talk about frying eggs on sidewalks, which are basically white, and you've got black. And so I would suggest that you consider aluminum or some other material so that you don't put people in physical danger. So I don't know if we have enough here to demand a reduction in the parking area, but I was expecting you to say you were providing parking for the trailhead and charging for it. But if you're not, then there's a way to soften that up too. Okay? So what do we think? It's close enough, back for preliminary?
Yeah.
Do we need to see it at the full board? Because there's enough different changes? Okay, and shall we try to go all the way to final?
Yeah.
Okay, preliminary final at the full board. That doesn't guarantee you'll get either one, but you have the opportunity.
Perfect. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you now. Item number 4, okay, very good. 765 Ashley Road. Again, we are on for concept. And then one more after that. Tracy, what are you up to, buddy?
Coming to see you folks.
Thank you. We're busy now. You can leave. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, let's see. David, if you could zoom in on that plot plan up there. I just want to orient you to the layout a little bit. So you can see off Ashley Road is on the right, and that driveway coming across there is an easement across other properties to get to the property. Just gives you an idea of how you approach it and the how far away it is from everything. If you could go down to the next sheet to the site plan. Zoom in a little closer there to just the site itself. So you can see on the right, that's a gravel motor court of sorts. It's kind of an odd arrangement on this site. They've got a detached studio and a detached garage, and you walk through, we'll see it in the photos, a little gate to get into the house. So you don't really get a sense of entry at all until you get past that gate. Then there's a little court there, and you go upstairs to the entry, which is that piece of the plan that kind of sticks up there. And you can see we're proposing 3 small additions to the house. Why don't we go down to the photo sheet, which I think is down 2. So in the middle section of photos, the one on the left, if you could zoom in a little there. Yeah, so that's the driveway and the entry you go through. You can go ahead and go up. Well, actually zoom out a little bit where I wanted to. So on the right there in that middle course, that's the entry. You go up those stairs and you get to the entry to the house beyond there. And the center photo up top is the, that would be the south side of the house where we're proposing kind of a long gallery entry. Photo on the right is the east end of the house. We're not proposing any work there, but you can see there's kind of a dog run off to the right, which you can see. You scroll down a little bit on the photo page there. Those 2 pictures on the lower right are a composite that shows essentially the backside of the utility area of the house. And so we're doing 2 small additions into that area. Go ahead down one more. Let's look at the photos away, and then we'll get to the plans. Yeah, if you can zoom into the top photo there. So that's from the existing deck, looking off to the south. You can see there's a fair amount of grade that goes down to the pool area, and you really can't see anything over there. It's a very isolated lot. You can scroll up a little bit. The picture on the left shows kind of the dog run area, and it's a big lot over there. They're doing a 10 or 11,000 square foot house. It's a mile away from our property, and they've got kind of a hedge that's planted and will grow up there. Okay, go ahead and go up to the that last picture is just off to the east. So go ahead up to the design plan. can walk through it. You could zoom in on the floor plan a little on the upper right. So it's pretty straightforward. You come up to the entry, which is on the lower left there. It's just a little pod that sticks out that's all entry. It has a door now into the back deck, which will become a window so they can furnish it as it's shown. And the living room and dining room areas are really too small. It's an 8-foot plate house, and it's vaulted there. The wall between the living room and the kitchen is the center. And so there's a ridge that runs down that whole thing. And then there's these struts that come off intermediate height beam and goes up to support the roof. And so the sitting area is too small. You can't really furnish it. Living and dining are really uncomfortable to walk through with the furnishing there. So she wanted to add a space to widen those rooms up, but they have a pretty limited budget. And like I said, those are all vaulted spaces with 1x6 boards and exposed beams. I didn't want to get into any of that. So what we're proposing to do is to put a beam across there where the existing wall is and do a flat ceiling gallery that leads down to what will be a new vestibule, also flat, going into the master bedroom. And all the bedrooms are vaulted also with kind of hip vaults, and kitchen and secondary spaces are all flat. And then it's a pretty small house, doesn't have much closet for the main suite. So that addition on the right there is just adding to get more closet and a laundry space. And the one on the left is added on to get the enough room to make the sitting room furnished properly. And if you could just zoom out to them where we can see the elevations. So it's a little tricky to figure out how to do the expansion of the gallery because, like I said, we don't want to change the existing framing or the existing ceiling on the inside. So what we're doing is adding 4.5 feet and just doing a split pitch roof that will go up on top of it. We've raised the plate in there. Surprisingly enough, the folks that own this place, the husband's 6'4" and the wife is 5'10", but they have 2 boys who are 6'10" and a daughter who's 6'5". So she was really pushing me, you need to get 9 feet at least in this gallery space. I said, Valerie, we can't do that. The roof won't work and you're going to tear the whole place up. So we'll raise it up an extra 8 inches or whatever we can do, and then bring the roof up on top of the existing roof. So that was reasonable enough for her to want to go ahead with that. So that's what we did. And then on the back side, we're just following the hips. The sitting area has the same window arrangement that it does now. There isn't any fenestration into the master closet because they really didn't want to have light coming into that area. So pretty straightforward. I think that's it. We'll open it up to questions.
Questions, Robert, please.
No questions.
Tip, questions, please.
No questions.
Bill, questions?
My only question is, can I make a motion?
Not quite. Okay,
just kidding.
thank you. Rob, questions?
No, I don't have any questions. I like your
Dave,
graphics.
questions?
The question.
Stacy, questions?
None.
And I have no questions. Public comment, is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 4, 765 Ashley Road, please?
No requests.
Okay, we are on for concept today. There will be no motion, but what would the board like to do? To preliminary final consent? Okay. And you did not include an FAR worksheet. I did a really quick dirty one at my office. You're fine. But we ask every applicant for every project, so please get that on. And thank you, and you will be coming back to the consent calendar.
Okay, great.
Colors, light fixtures, the whole 9 yards, okay?
Yeah.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks, Tracy.
Okay, item number 5, 541 Hodges Lane. We had a site visit, a lonely site visit today. We didn't have an applicant or an owner. Okay.
Any access to the site.
Or access to the site. We had to look over and some of us actually had to climb on the fence,
Only 5'4.5". That fence is
even in heels.
like, Yeah,
Yeah, it was great.
there was nobody there.
I apologize for that.
Okay, so let's read the planner memo. At the April 4th meeting, the project received comments that the site plan was unclear, geez, and required simplification. The team was asked to restudy the driveway, site layout, and roof plan, as well as to refine details and resolve and formalize the architectural style. It was requested that the clear story above the doors on the northern elevation be restudied, including considering taller doors. Information on the easement was requested. Lastly, the project was asked to return with a landscape plan. Attention to the requested refinements and changes can be seen throughout, and in particular on elevation sheet 202, 301, and 302. The renderings on sheet 901, 902, and 903 depict the architectural style intended. Lastly, a preliminary landscape plan, including driveway and site layout details, can be seen on sheet L01. The project is under review by Public Works Flood Control. Staff is waiting on comments from Flood Control to determine if changes to the finished floor or layout are required. Okay, so we are on for preliminary today. Don't know if we're going to get it. It sounds like we can't do that because we don't have flood control. Kimberly, Dave?
I am concerned that if we grant preliminary approval of this project and the finished floor elevation and thus the overall height changes because of flood control requirements, that we will have to come back for revised preliminary.
Yeah, let's, okay.
And it
So
should be noted that we put this item on the agenda kind of under protest. They were very anxious to get the story poles removed, so I'm very, very surprised that no one attended the site visit from the design team.
you're very surprised by what?
That no one from the design team went
Oh,
to the site inspection.
it's rare, it happens. Okay, so please, your presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, so I'll focus on the comments that we went over and we can get back into it. Apologize for no one being on site to give you access to it, that we had discussed this with the client. Again, hopefully you were able to see the story poles and determine kind of the proposed heights for the structure. I know that when you approach from the street, there's a slight depression, and that the house sits lower than the current existing road. We can go to the site plan on A101 to look at our driveway adjustments. When we last came in, oh, sorry, A101. Yeah, this, to speak to kind of that comment from flood, we are within range of a natural water course. So that's why we're still waiting to hear back on that. And that's what that green buffer there at the back of the property represents. So this is the existing home, about 1,700 square feet. You can see on the left-hand side a 480 square foot garage. We'll be demolishing the majority of that to move forward with a larger home. It's about, I have the note right here, 1,120 square foot addition. Could you go to A102, please, the next page? So when we originally did the driveway, we had filled in a majority of this portion of area with concrete, including kind of see we've now rounded the curves and radiuses to minimize. And our previous submittal was almost, we just infilled along that property line completely. This new approach will hopefully minimize hardscape in that area and be more consistent with the desired look to the garage. We were told to restudy our roof pitches, so we can go to our roof plan. As you can see, there's kind of 3 different segments. It'll continue through the proposed That's a perfect one. So that structure on the left with the kind of the awkward angle, that is the new garage. And it has a like studio addition above. So that's the highest point. We revisited that to try to create that as its own standalone roof plane. The lower level in light gray is the bedrooms, and that sits beneath. That's a single story. I think the plate height there is 8 feet. And then lastly, the dark area on the right-hand side is our new great room entertainment area. And that is at a 12-foot plate height. If you can go to A202, I think, for our proposed elevations. This will be great. So one of the comments we also received was regarding the clear story and fenestration, which you can see in the middle on the right-hand side. We did take the advice of the board and we increased our doorway heights, try to maximize that fenestration, eliminated the separation between the clear story above and the doorways below, and then continued that around to the kitchen as well, which is best seen in the bottom left-hand corner. So you can kind of see that doorway and then those three lower where you have the wood frame like trellis up above is the kitchenette. Looking at that bottom elevation, that lower roof plane in the center are the 2 bedrooms. And then again, the large structure on the right-hand side here is the garage and the upper windows to the upper bedroom. There was comments to try to identify architectural style. And if you can go to A900, our renders, the approach we're going is, Mediterranean, maybe a little Spanish revival. I don't want to designate it that because I know there's elements that aren't exactly traditional, but stucco, Spanish tile, dark woodwork, nice stone veneer at that lower elevation in the center. If you could zoom in on that bottom render. But yeah, I guess Spanish revival or Mediterranean will, I guess I'll sell my soul on that one. I'll call it Mediterranean. We tried to minimize as much impact as we could on landscaping. We have that fountain you see, that entryway with the exposed post at the front was the original entryway. We've tried to just like spruce it up, tie it into the new addition, try to bring some of those elements together to make a more established look and appearance for the structure. Let's see here, additional comments. So yeah, we did talk about creeks. That was something that came up again. As Kimberly said, we are within range of a water course, so we're still seeing what flood determines and if that will impact our elevation points and where we place our floors. So we may come back if that turns out to be an issue. And then if you could go to L01, that's the landscape plan. And yeah, when we were last year, we didn't provide a landscape plan for the site, which, looking back is a bit problematic. Since then, we've returned with this plan by Common Ground. I can't really see the varietals, but again, trying to go with native plants, being conscious of drought tolerant, and minimizing our total water consumption needs. And that'll conclude my presentation.
Question, Stacy, please.
Yeah, I can see that a good portion of the back of your site is in environmentally sensitive habitat. Kimberly, can you speak to, are they allowed to build any structure in the ESH zone?
So they will be required to have a bio report that discusses the setback and the habitat. There may be some give and take in terms of the setback and what can be built back there. That area needs to be all native plantings, non-invasive.
Okay, and are you aware that you have Marathon 2 lawn called out in the ESH zone as well as a lot of other non-natives at this point?
I am not, but I can reach out to our landscape architect to discuss that. Our site plan on A102 does depict where that region is, if that helps the
Correct.
board.
Yeah. We were looking at that. Did you look at?
That entire green area.
Yeah, so I see a lot of structure being pushed back into the ESH zone close to the creek. Something we're looking at too on the site that we actually could see from the street, were all of the eucalyptus. Are they the yellow that's called out here on the trunks? On the landscape plan? I think it's on the very
Yeah,
last
we'll have to go
sheet.
back to Owen.
David, sorry.
Yeah, if you don't mind zooming in just to read the varietals along those trees at the back end of the property.
Yeah, those are all the eucalyptus
Yeah,
that we saw.
yeah, those right there.
And they, looks like some of them, the one big one we were looking at, did not appear to be problematic, but what's the plan with the lower ones? Are you guys planning on just keeping those or removing them?
At this time, we didn't intend on removing any plants that weren't necessary, but we'd be in support of addressing anything.
Have you spoken to fire about this? Have they?
I
plans with
believe,
those
yeah.
trees?
I believe we have gone to fire and they've reviewed our project with approval.
For access, have they looked at the plants though and the
I'd have to
existing
check with,
vegetation?
I'd have to check with what our report was, but the last we stood with planning, we had approval for a majority of this other than the flood.
And if, let's say, for instance, those eucalyptus have to come out? Because they're in
Yeah.
the floodway and then also too, because their proximity to the structures are kind of very highly flammable. Do you have a plan for screening for the Pierre Lafond building behind?
Oh, we don't. So we do have some photos, which I don't think were provided, of the water course back there. If we were to remove these, we'd be in support of providing whatever screening was best served. I'd speak to Chris with Common Ground to determine what that'd be at his advice.
Okay, those are my questions.
Dave, questions, please.
No questions.
Bill,
Show the elevations there real quick, Dave, or the renderings, either one. So, in that entry side there, it looks like you have, looks like doors with side lights. Am I reading that right? There's like 3 doors in a row with side lights. It's not these elevations. Let's see, Dave, if you go to the next. Yeah, right there, the bottom left
Oh, yes. So, oh, pardon me.
patio.
So what that is, yeah, there's a hallway from the garage side. At the end, we have a little like off parking entry. It's not the primary entry, but that is a hallway to the bedrooms. And we have a lower courtyard, which isn't really seen. Actually, the photo on the right, you can see it. We've thrown a little table there to represent that courtyard, but those are just doorways through the hall out into that lower level.
That won't be confused as entry doors, though, will they, with the entry that's right next to it?
So I don't believe it will. So if you're coming along the driveway approach, there's an entry shown to the right of the garage door that we've kind of designated a little pathway off of the driveway, hopes that that would lead you there. And then if you're coming from the street, when you come in, you approach a walkway with a fountain, and that leads you to our main front door.
And go to the roof plan real quick. It's a little hard to determine what part of the roof is, well, one more, there you go. I'm guessing the darker roof hatch is the new roof, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And they both sit significantly taller than the gray area, which is what those existing bedrooms
Yeah.
are.
And did you look at the idea of trying to just simplify those roofs and not have so many angles and cuts? And I mean, was there some treatment there that you maybe looked at?
So
Kind of limit the amount of roof. I mean, it looks like you're changing 2/3 of it.
we are, yeah. And over the garage, I mean, one easy solution we see is like you could go with an open gable. I don't know if that fits the style we were going for. Unfortunately, that awkward angle you see off to the right, that's kind of at, straight and 45. That's due to the approach of the existing structure. So we have a staircase that comes along that interior wall and then rotates into the upper studio.
Would that have been squared up on the living room and not the garage side?
Yes, I mean, we could approach it that way. It would eliminate fenestration, so that looks out from that upper angle.
All right, that's it. Thanks.
Tip, questions, please.
No questions.
Robert, questions, please.
There is a lot of kind of beaten up landscaping where that garage is going. Do you have a plan that shows what's removed? Will you have a plan?
I do not, no, but I can return with a landscape plan showing what's removed if you'd like. We can go out and identify what's there currently.
So
Yeah.
big hedge, there's that kind of gnarly, whatever it is, tree. That's all coming out though.
Yes, yeah, that's correct.
Not sure we. Show it, but it would be pretty easy, especially in conjunction with showing any new material over there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a problem for us. We have a demo site plan, so I think identifying those items there is a simple fix.
No more questions.
Rob, please.
Can I just see the landscape plan, please? Okay, just a quick question is what, you have that, the rear terrace on is north up on this project or
Right.
to the right?
Yeah, the west.
So east is down, okay, so to the right, okay, on the north side there you have, what is, you have a little green spot and then the patio is broken up there, how do you get from one side to the other, or what is there?
Oh, yeah, so there's two separate doorways. One, the east side of that is a suite, like a private bedroom, and it walks out under that, and it has a very limited staircase. So they are two separate staircases. So the larger staircase above the planter comes into the great room and lines up with that large fenestration. And then that lower staircase, I think it's about 4 feet or so, maybe 5 feet, lines up with that smaller.
So there's
bedroom.
separate
Spaces.
people living there or something?
No, no, not like that. It's just it's the way that, if you want to go to our floor plan, it'd be easier to depict what I'm looking at, trying to explain here.
Mostly what I was reacting to, that you can't get there from here kind of thing, where it doesn't connect and doesn't flow, and then what, do I have to walk down steps and then
You
go back up a
do.
bunch of steps, and so why are you doing that, I guess, is all.
So if you zoom in, so yeah, the bedroom does have direct connection to the family room, but you're right. It's two different approaches to get to the same pool area, right? So that planter, which you can kind of see in that designated white zone, separates that stairway. So if you're in that lower bedroom, you would have to walk down and then come back up to get into the great room that way if you didn't take the interior hall.
Okay, pet peeve of mine, but, thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, no, I get it. I
Okay,
understand.
okay, that's it.
And I have no questions. Public comment, is there anybody that would like to address the board on item number 541 Hodges Lane, please?
No requests.
Okay, comments, we are on for preliminary, but as chairman, without the flood control fully here, I don't think we should give it a motion, but assuming that flood control said, okay, would you then permit the consent calendar to do that? Try to keep everybody moving. Stacy, comments, please.
I don't know if I can, I don't think that I could approve a plan that's encroaching into an ESH zone. Just so deeply. I think the garage would have to come away from the eucalyptus trees too. And also too, that I think that needs to be looked at, I think most likely, having had a number of biologist reports with ESH zones. It's highly likely they're going to call for the removal of all non-native invasive species, which would be the eucalyptus. And in which case too, you have to come back with like a screening exercise on, because that's a big building behind you. And how you would screen that with native plantings. And to just, yeah, the level of encroachment into the ESH zone on the backside, I think I have a hard time supporting the project as it is right now in its current state for those reasons.
And what about the trees that are planted within 15 feet, please?
Oh, yeah, well, high fire zone too. I mean, Chris should know this, and this will go through fire. Can't have a canopy closer than 15 feet to the edge of the house.
Understood, yeah.
So you have a few of those. and
Yeah.
That'll go through fire, and I'm sure it'll have corrections as well with that.
Okay.
Okay. Dave, comments, please.
I agree with Stacy's comments. I wasn't here for the first round, but I did go out to the site today. I think the mass and the scale of it are okay. You're down in that recess. You're pretty well screened from the neighbors, and that's a commercial property. The one side, the screening may be more of an issue for you than them. But just reading through the notes, the one that the refined details resolve and formalize the architectural style. It's just very eclectic. It's hard for me to know if some of this is forced because it's a remodel. I think what really stands out to me is you have hipped roofs and gables, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. So I would highly encourage you to maybe try to formalize a style some more and pick a direction. Right now, some of the pitches are really flat, some of them are more steep, and you've got hips, and you just have a lot of conditions that make it very complicated.
Yeah.
And not, it's isn't as strong as it could be. So that would be my main comment, is to try to resolve the style of the architecture more.
Is that it, Dave? Bill, please, comments.
Yeah, I agree with Stacy and Dave. I think the landscaping on that west side there needs to be looked at and treated, and whether you can put plantings in there or what you can do. I think there's screening. I went around the other side, and not only the restaurant is adjacent, but I think as you get further to the north, you've got a cluster of homes there that share kind of an entry in.
Yeah.
So there's, I think that just sort of landscaping that, since you're redoing it anyway. And then the roofs, I think that's the thing. I think you can clean that up. I think you've got an opportunity now to kind of redo that.
Yeah.
And I would just find a path. I'm okay with the gable on the top, but maybe the rest could be hips.
Yeah.
But sheds and low pitches and break pitches, and I think the angle, you could actually square that up and even overlap it over the other part of the other roof. It doesn't have to be that way on the inside, but on the
Right.
outside, maybe you could clean it up. So I think there's some things you can do there with the roofs that I would prefer to see. So
Yeah.
that's it. Thanks.
Yep, comments, please.
I have nothing else to add to it. Thank you.
Robert, please. Comments?
The odd second story above the garage, I would definitely think about that roof. And yeah, the rest of it is pretty good. It really comes off in your renderings as a decent looking house. The 3D stuff, yeah, there. I don't really object to it that much, but yeah, I agree. Maybe the roofs can be more resolved. More the same kind of cohesive style, but in general, I think the project looks good, especially in these renderings. That's it for me.
Rob, please, comments.
Look, you. I mean, I think, overall, I'll speak to the landscape architecture part of it. The landscape architect did a really nice job of organizing and the property and putting it all together and presenting it. So I have no doubt that that'll do something similar. But if in fact that everything in the environmentally sensitive area has to be removed, and I thought it wasn't just the plant material has to be native. I didn't think you're allowed to do any hardscape back there was part of it. So so that will change. So and then that's where I can't see this going to consent, because that's going to completely change the hardscape design. I think you're going to have to kind of relook at that and how everything is kind of organized as far as that goes. And then And then the only other thing for me is I think the front door and front entry experience is really kind of washed out or muted. And I think it needs something stronger, a courtyard or something that calls more attention to when I come into that space. There's just so much stuff going on. I'm not really sure where the front door is supposed to be. And I think that the architecture, the hardscape and all that needs to kind of work together
Right.
to be something stronger. And maybe it's a courtyard or
Yeah.
something that will accomplish that. But I don't see, I think it's missing that right now. But, I think if we just, if you have to deal with that environmental sensitive habit, you're gonna have to change things. And so we definitely need to see it again. But
You got it.
you guys are in the right direction. So thank you.
I'm sorry I didn't get to go physically on the property because when I looked at it from the gate, it looked to me like, I believe it was a pittosporum back there, big. No,
Oh, the ficus.
ficus, okay. Yeah. How dare I call it pittosporum? The ficus, I mean, I think you need to get the fire department out there
Yeah.
while the story poles are up,
Right.
like tomorrow.
Okay.
Because I think they're gonna, after the Palisades fire,
Yeah.
they're gonna look at it and say, no,
Right.
and so that's number one. Number two, yeah, well, that's a long way from preliminary approval, though. We're a long way if we're doing this kind of stuff. I want to talk about the style of the building. So I don't see this building having any kind of traditional, authentic character. Not all buildings have to have traditional, authentic character. I mean, some people choose to have it, others don't. To me, this is sort of a Southern California white plaster building that has some reference back to some of the earlier architecture, and that's about it.
Yeah.
If you want to get it more, and we saw a project just before, it was either just before two before you,
Yeah.
that was very modern.
Mm-hmm.
So this board is happy to approve a lot of different styles.
Yeah.
But I don't see that this building has reached a style yet.
Yeah.
And I would encourage you to go and take out books, buy books, visit other architects that have extensive libraries and find a style.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to do that, if you want to come back and have this sort of little mixture here and a little mixture there, yeah, from a community standpoint of view, but there are 7 people here that have had a lot of experience and I think are trying to share with you. Maybe you could find a better way to detail it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mass bulk and scale is probably okay, but somehow actually pull it together as they call it, a piece.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no, we are on for preliminary. Are we required to make a motion because we have it on for preliminary?
No, just if you just want to direct how to come back, I think it's fine.
Preliminary here. Yeah,
Full board,
full board, yeah.
So,
Okay, and good luck. We'll see you when you get back.
thank you.
He should do that for fire department so they can actually see what's there. And I have a feeling that eucalyptus and ficus, yeah, they're gone. Okay, so do I have a motion for adjournment, please?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?